2, 3,
4, 5,
6,
7,
8,
9.
The world is full of dangerous things. Most people don't like to think about these things too often. I know I don't. Some of you may have even cringed at the mere mention of danger. It's true we prefer to focus on the more comfortable things in life, the things that give us a sense of safety and security. We would much rather dwell on those warm moments that make us believe everything is all right in the world. However, every once in a while, we come face to face with something dangerous. At times like this, we cannot hide under our blankets and dream of something more unpleasant. Sometimes we have nowhere to look but right in front of us. At one point, during my stay in New York City this summer, I got very unlucky. My money, debit card, and cell phone all became subject to thievery, leaving me completely without money or form of communication. Needing desperately to get to a Western Union, I promptly Googled the nearest one and wrote down an address. I didn't know anything about the area, but I wasn't worried. After all, I had made similar trips multiple times throughout my stay in New York. I admit I was becoming a little cocky. That evening, I set out on my errand, refusing my friends multiple offers to join me. It had been a long day, and I wanted to be alone for the quick half hour or so that I anticipated my trip would be. However, the subway ride to Western Union was much longer than I expected. By the time I finally stepped off the train and into the humid night, it was getting dark. I then realized that my stop was about 8 blocks from where I needed to be, a good half mile. There are many places in New York City that are widely recognized as bad parts of town, the kind of places you stay away from if you know what's good for you. As I looked around, I came to the awful realization that I was in one of those places. The graffiti-covered buildings loomed above the litter-infested street. Men stood clustered together in small groups, and there were bars on many of the windows. I wasn't too naive to realize that this was not somewhere I should be traveling, alone, at night, or otherwise. But there I was, alone, phoneless, moneyless, stranded at night in one of the more notorious parts of Brooklyn, New York. And it was getting darker with every passing minute. So, although I knew that I was unprepared, unprotected, and unsafe, I began to walk, quickly. Concentrating on appearing purposeful and confident, I focused my gaze directly ahead of me. It took everything in me to keep my full composure as I ignored every whistle, shout, and look that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I tried not to pay attention to how much my knees quivered, how dry my throat was, or the cold sweat accumulating on my forehead. I was in a race against time, and reaching my destination became my first and only priority. Soon enough, a lanky, unshaven Latino man, probably in his mid-40s, approached me. "Are you lost?" he asked me through his gruff accent and dwindling cigarette, to which I quickly answered no and continued walking. Only now I had a shadow, and this shadow reeked of alcohol, smoke, and trouble. The man became relentless, firing continuous inappropriate questions at me. I could feel his presence strongly behind me and knew that he was too close. Not only that, the man was drawing steadily closer. I needed to get away, but simply ignoring him wasn't working. As I began to realize the immediate threat of the situation, I felt my heart pounding rapidly in my throat. I remember praying that the tremors in my hands would go unnoticed. I was panic-stricken, but I was also furious. In a small way, this anger made me sure of myself, despite the desperateness of the situation. One deep breath and my courage was summoned. Without stopping, I turned round just enough to glare right into those beady, black, hungry little eyes. In my most assertive voice, I said, "Not interested." I then turned quickly back around and crossed the street. The man did not follow, and I breathed a grateful sigh of relief. I endured many more scares that night, but someone must have been watching over me because somehow I made it home without a scratch. The moral of the story is one that I have learned well. No matter how secure you may feel, there is always something to be said for erring on the side of safety. I often thought back to the terrors of this night when faced with the choices whether to wear a seatbelt or get in a car driven by someone who has been drinking. I realize now that if we rely upon a false sense of invincibility, we may find ourselves becoming very vulnerable very fast. Life is bursting at the seams with wonderful times. However, we must also do what we can to be prepared for those dangerous times in which we will have to look straight ahead, do all we can, and pray that someone is watching out for us.